Have you ever wondered why, in a moment of crisis, you sometimes handle things with just perfect grace, but other times you totally fall apart?
Yeah.
Like one day the pressure hits and you're this pillar of calm. You're making rapid fire decisions. Everyone around you is panicking and you're just totally dialed in.
You're right.
And then, I don't know, a week later, you drop a coffee mug in the kitchen and you just completely spiral.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole day is ruined over some shattered ceramic. Why does that happen? I mean, we tend to view those rare, graceful moments as some magical performance we can just summon, right?
Through sheer willpower or something.
Exactly. We tell ourselves we just rose to the occasion, but that perspective might actually be completely blinding us to how human behavior really works under pressure.
It's a comforting illusion, really.
Yeah.
The idea that we harbor this hidden reserve of heroism or competence that we can just tap into whenever the stakes get high.
Right, like pulling a lever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reality of how we respond to sudden stress or chaos is, well, it's much more sobering. But once you understand the mechanics of it, it actually becomes incredibly empowering.
Welcome to today's deep dive, where our mission is to uncover exactly those mechanics. We're looking at how invisible, everyday habits build the visible character that shows up when the pressure is finally on.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. And our source material today is this fascinating daily journal compilation, specifically day 155. It weaves together just an incredible mix of voices.
Yeah, really jumps around.
We're talking MBA stars, ancient philosophers, theologians, and like modern leadership experts all in one place.
And what's great is there's a real unifying theme across all these totally diverse sources.
Which is,
The character is never a performance you can just turn on.
right.
It's an accumulation. So
Yeah.
the way you handle a major crisis or, a minor annoyance like the dropped coffee mug,
Yeah, my Meg.
it is the sum total of what you do in the dark. In the quiet moments when absolutely no one is grading you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can talk about how character shows up under high-stakes pressure, we first have to understand how it's actually formed in the everyday environment, right?
Yes, exactly. You have to start there.
And the sources use this really compelling image to explain it.
They do. They bring in Tony Dungy and his greenhouse metaphor, which is just brilliant.
Yeah, walk us through that.
So he says, imagine walking into a massive commercial greenhouse. It's packed with orchids and gardenias.
Okay.
The air in a place like that is heavy, it's humid, and it's intensely scented.
Oh, yeah, you could almost feel it.
Right. Now, you might only walk through the aisles for like 5 minutes, but when you step back outside into the normal world, you carry the atmosphere of that greenhouse with you.
Because the scent gets trapped in your clothes.
Exactly. It physically seeps into the fibers. So when you walk into a totally different room later that afternoon, people know where you've been without you saying a single word.
It's exactly like leaving a smoky barbecue or sitting around a campfire all night. You don't try to smell like smoke.
No, you definitely don't.
You don't make a conscious decision to absorb the bonfire smell. You just absorb the environment you chose to sit in.
Right.
And then the next morning at the grocery store, everyone standing near you knows exactly what kind of environment you were in the night before.
That passive absorption, that is the key mechanism here. You don't have to announce your values or your mental state to people.
They just know.
They radiate outward based on where you've been spending your time. Rachel Cruz talks about this in the sources with this deceptively simple quote. She says, more is caught than taught.
Caught than taught. I love that.
Yeah, and while she uses it mostly for parenting, it's really a fundamental law of human development.
How so?
Well, we don't transfer our resilience or our anxiety or our ethics through lectures. We transfer them through our being. People around you are catching the scent of your personal greenhouse.
Right, they're picking up on the vibes, the habits. But if the scent is just our behavior and our mindset, what happens if we realize we don't actually like the fragrance we're giving off?
That is where it gets heavy.
Yeah, because the journal brings in some pretty intense philosophy here with Richard Rorty, and he states bluntly that there is nothing deep down inside us except what we put there ourselves.
That's a stark way of looking at it.
I gotta say, that sounds a little bleak at first glance to me. I mean, it implies there's no hidden, authentic, essential self just waiting to be discovered, right?
What's fascinating here is how Rorty forces us to take absolute responsibility for our environment. He's explaining the mechanics of human formation.
Okay.
We want to believe that our core self is somehow insulated from all the junk we consume. Like we can, doom scroll for 3 hours.
Oh, guilty.
Or sit in toxic meetings, listen to constant complaining, and still remain this fundamentally positive person deep down. But Rorty is saying the greenhouse is non-optional.
There is no insulated core.
None. You are always soaking in some environment, and your brain is literally building its default neural pathways out of the ambient noise you choose to sit in.
Meaning, I'm not just a blank slate reacting to circumstances. The inputs are physically forming the machinery of my reactions.
Exactly. The dangerous illusion is believing you are just reacting. Every conversation you entertain, every small frustration you let fester, it's all going in and forming the base layer of your character.
Wow. So what you absorb in private inevitably becomes what you emit in public.
That's the translation, yeah.
That makes the shift to high-pressure situations really clear then. If we are constantly absorbing our environment and accumulating these micro-inputs, how does that invisible buildup actually manifest when the stakes are highest?
Under the lights, so to speak.
Exactly. And to look at that real-time translation, let's talk about the New York Knicks.
Oh, this is a perfect case study.
It really is. So picture this brutal road playoff game in Cleveland. The arena is just deafening, the pressure is immense, and the Knicks find themselves down by more than 20 points.
A nightmare scenario for a visiting team.
Total nightmare. The television broadcast is already talking about their collapse. The narrative is written, the cameras are just waiting for them to fall apart.
But they don't.
No, they don't panic at all. Possession by possession, they just keep defending. They communicate through all that noise. They shrink the deficit, and they pull off this stunning comeback win.
Which is incredible on its own.
Right. But the crucial insight here isn't the win itself, it's the explanation for the win.
Yeah. Jalen Brunson's post-game interview.
Yes. So Brunson, their captain, fields questions from the press. And usually, this is the exact moment for those sports cliches, right?
Oh, we found an extra gear, or we showed a lot of heart out there.
Exactly. The mystical playoff energy. But he didn't credit any of that. He just gave this deeply philosophical one-sentence answer. He said, habits translate.
Habits translate. It's so good. But wait, let me push back on this for a second.
Because if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, isn't that just a convenient excuse to ignore raw athletic talent? Or, like, a sudden burst of adrenaline?
Right. It sounds a bit like PR spin.
Exactly. Like, it's a polite deflection. Calling it habits almost seems to diminish the sheer physical feat of coming back from 20 points down in the playoffs.
Well, the sources actually explicitly dismantle that talent myth.
Really?
Yeah. The Journal uses Brunson's own history to prove the point. For years, professional talent evaluators told him he was too small.
Oh, that's right.
They said he was too slow, that he lacked a high ceiling. They focused entirely on the visible metrics of talent.
What you can measure at a combine.
Exactly. What they failed to measure was the invisible architecture he was building in the dark every day.
His greenhouse.
Yes. And George Raveling, the legendary basketball figure, he's brought in here to clarify this. He notes that potential is merely a prediction, but habits are evidence.
Oh, wait. Potential is a prediction. Habits are evidence.
Right.
That's a huge distinction. We treat potential like it's this bank account you can just draw from whenever you want, but it's literally just a guess about the future.
It's a guess that tells you absolutely nothing about what a person will do when their heart rate spikes to 160 beats per minute.
When the crowd is screaming.
Exactly. In moments of acute crisis, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles complex, rational decision-making, it often just gets bypassed completely.
You go into autopilot.
You default to your most ingrained motor and psychological patterns. The Knicks didn't suddenly discover trust and communication while they were down 20 points.
Right, you don't build the fire extinguisher while the house is already on fire.
Exactly. The crisis didn't create their resilience. The pressure simply revealed the reps they had been doing in the dark all season.
The adrenaline doesn't give you new skills?
No, it forces you to rely entirely on the skills that are automatic. The game was just the lighting that revealed the habits.
The source material connects this secular sports moment to a much older parallel, actually. It references the book of Matthew.
Yes, Matthew 7:16.
Right, Jesus saying, by their fruits you shall know them. And it's presented here not so much as religious doctrine, but as this mechanical truth about how reality functions.
Think about the biology of an apple tree.
Okay.
When autumn arrives and the temperature drops, the tree doesn't suddenly experience stress and decide, oh, I need to perform now, I need to push out apples.
Right, it doesn't try harder.
The fruit is just the natural, unavoidable consequence of an invisible root system that's been drawing nutrients from the soil for years.
The external fruit is just an indicator of the internal root.
Exactly. A tree doesn't choose its fruit in the moment. In the exact same way, The Knicks' victory was just the natural fruit of their daily practice roots.
So the equation is, the soil feeds the roots dictate the fruit, and our habits determine our outcomes under pressure.
That's it.
Which brings up the most practical question of this entire deep dive.
How do we actually do it?
Exactly. If habits and roots dictate our outcomes, how do we actively cultivate the right root system without totally exhausting ourselves?
Well, the journal points out that this requires deciding what or who you are ultimately serving.
Choosing the master.
Yes. Leo Tolstoy and Ralph Waldo Emerson are brought in here. Tolstoy asks a really stark question. Whose servant will you be? Will you be the servant of your passions or the servant of your inner spirit?
I think defining passions here is critical, because in modern English, having a passion is usually a good thing, right? Follow your passion. But Tolstoy means something totally different.
He does. He's referring to the ego's passion.
The negative ones.
Right. The insatiable desires for status, wealth, endless external validation. If you serve those passions, your sense of stability relies entirely on the outside world.
You need the crowd to cheer.
You need the promotion, you need the likes on social media, and the moment that external environment shifts,
Your roots are just ripped right out of the ground.
completely. But if you serve your inner spirit, your internal compass of character, you become free. Your master is constant, and it's under your own control.
And then Emerson adds to this, right? He talks about independent thought, but warns that it has to be directed rightly.
Yes, you could be a fiercely independent thinker, totally unswayed by the crowd, but if you're directing all that energy towards serving your own ego, you're still building a toxic greenhouse.
Right.
The roots blindly absorb whatever you put in the soil.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the journal pivots from Tolstoy and Emerson directly to Ryan Holiday and Arthur Schopenhauer.
Right, bringing it into the modern concept of self-care.
Exactly. Holiday argues for this concept of mental wealth. He says our sanity, our clarity, our emotional regulation, these are perishable assets. They have to be protected.
And Schopenhauer delivers a very severe warning about that. He says sacrificing your health, physical or mental, for any other kind of happiness is the greatest of follies.
But let me play devil's advocate for the listener here.
Go for it.
Doesn't focusing on your own mental wealth or spending all this time tending to your own inner greenhouse, doesn't that sound a bit selfish? Especially if you're a leader or a parent, someone who's supposed to be self-sacrificing.
Society definitely conditions us to believe that running on empty is a badge of honor.
Right, like absolute self-sacrifice is the goal.
But sources firmly correct this. Suffering through depletion isn't a virtue. It is strategically reckless.
Rick.
Yes, because of the greenhouse effect. You cannot radiate a fragrance you haven't absorbed.
Oh, wow.
If a leader or a parent runs themselves into the ground, they might think they're serving their people, but what they're actually doing is bringing the scent of exhaustion and resentment into the room.
So spending time on a therapist or a book or getting enough rest.
It is the vital infrastructure of giving.
The infrastructure of giving. I love that phrasing. Taking an hour to regulate your own nervous system isn't selfish. It's actually an investment in the people around you.
You have to enrich the soil so the tree can bear fruit. If the soil is barren, you have nothing to offer, no matter how much you want to help.
Okay, so we know we need to carefully curate our greenhouse. We need to protect our mental wealth, choose our masters. So should we all just sit down right now and map out the perfect life strategy?
Not so fast.
Right, because there's a trap here. The journal introduces Anthony de Mello's parable of calculation to warn us about this.
It's a great story.
So there's a man who deliberates fully before taking a single step. He analyzes every variable, maps out the perfect path, and the result. He spends his entire life standing on one leg.
Standing on one leg. It's the ultimate image of analysis paralysis.
Exactly. Like when you spend weeks optimizing a morning routine. You buy the right journal, research all the stretching protocols, download the apps.
And then you just hit sneeze anyway.
Every single day. You built a beautiful theoretical greenhouse, but you haven't actually walked through the door.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the shadow side of all this wisdom. Intellectualization.
Right.
You could become so obsessed with analyzing the concepts that you never actually do the work. Jalen Brunson didn't lead that comeback because he had a leather-bound notebook of basketball theories.
Right, he actually practiced. The philosophy has to translate into motion, which brings in Bruce Lee's advice perfectly.
Oh, yes.
Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. It's an active synthesis. It's about motion. You don't just debate the merits of an input, you test it.
The deliberation has to give way to action. And to push the listener out of that one-legged paralysis, the sources fold in two more powerful quotes about timing and alignment.
Let's hear them.
First, Abraham, via Esther Hicks, suggests that if you find your alignment, those who are also in alignment will naturally recognize you.
Which ties directly back to Tony Dungy's greenhouse.
Exactly.
If you cultivate the right scent, you don't have to force relationships. Your authentic habits act as a broadcast signal.
You naturally attract the right people. And the second quote is from Nelson Mandela. He strips away all the excuses about waiting for the perfect moment.
What does he say?
He says, "The time is always ripe to do right."
Wow. The time is always right. Meaning, standing on one leg, waiting for your life to settle down isn't a position, it's just paralysis.
It's an excuse to avoid doing the invisible work today. The conditions are never going to be perfect.
So what does this all mean for you listening? When we pull all these threads together, from greenhouses to the NBA playoffs, from inner masters to Bruce Lee, the core message of Day 155 is this: you don't get to choose if you are being formed.
No, you don't.
The formation is happening right now, constantly. You only get to choose the direction.
And that's why Simon Sinek's application to leadership is so crucial here. He points out that the leaders who get the most out of people are the ones who genuinely care the most.
Because people catch what leaders are, not just what they say on a PowerPoint slide.
Exactly. The root precedes everything. The work in the dark always comes before the victory under the lights.
There is one final, really provocative thought from the source material that we haven't discussed yet, from Les Brown.
Yes, and I think this is a profound paradigm shift for the listener to take away. Les Brown says, there are winners, there are losers, and there are people who have not yet learned how to win.
Learned how to win.
Right. Winning, having good character, demonstrating grace in a crisis, it is not a genetic gift. It's not a lucky lottery ticket. It is a curriculum.
A curriculum.
Yes. And it invites a very personal question. What does your daily curriculum look like right now?
When no one is watching.
Right. What specific roots are you watering? Because whatever greenhouse you are sitting in today, that is the exact fragrance you are going to carry into your next crisis.
The scent is going to be on your clothes whether you like it or not, so choose your greenhouse wisely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Take care, everyone.